Welcome to the Kawarthas Small Business Podcast, where we believe the Kawarthas can be the most thriving region in Canada for small businesses. So we created a podcast where we have $1 million conversations that help small business owners thrive. I'm Brian Rump from Profit Coach.
And I'm Matt Garrity of Matty Digital.
And we are recording from the Thrive Podcast Studio at Thrive Co-working Community in downtown Lindsay, Ontario at 18 Kent Street West. And today we are talking about why you should be our sponsor. So we're devoting a whole episode to this. I think it's not something sponsorship often does. And I want to create that compelling case for the right person to pay us some money to be our signature sponsor, sponsor some episodes. I think for the right person, it's a great decision. And I want to talk about that. And it also helps, I guess, give people the mindset of what they should look at when they are choosing to sponsor something as part of their marketing.
To me, it's a marketing exercise, frankly. Yeah. I think it's good awareness for a existing or a new business. It's proper awareness to other business owners, usually. So I'm sure that maybe like a retailer in some cases might not be ideal. But if it's some sort of business related service, it's a great audience for that to actually get in front of people, whether it's going to be people that listen or people online and anything else that we continue to do. It's just a great brand awareness perspective. And I think it's I don't know if I know this for sure, but it's probably a somewhat respected brand. We worked really hard to do this properly. I'm pretty proud now to say that we are the biggest podcast in Kawartha Lakes, which is pretty cool. And I think that there's some merit and value to that. And I think that's beneficial for businesses to be associated with that specifically. So,
yeah, I think, when I think about sponsoring for businesses, it's always, why are you doing this? So business owners will say like, oh, so-and-so wants me to sponsor their thing. Mm-hmm. And you always want there to be a business reason to do it. Mm-hmm. So, sometimes people will sponsor something just because they like it, or it's like, hey, this is a hobby, so I sponsor the hobby, the association of what I'm doing. Not always the best use of sort of marketing dollars, especially, it's another conversation, people who don't market a lot. And it's like, oh, you spent, $800 on marketing last year and it was your kid's hockey team and that's it. Yeah. It's like, you should probably be doing more. But it's what's the business value? And, it is a pure marketing play. It's awareness. It's a specific audience to small business owners. You get, the promotion of the podcast, social media sort of following, boost some posts. So you're getting that extra awareness co-linked to something else. So it's not a pure, hey, buy this exact thing.
Yeah. Most of the time, I think about sponsorship as, is this something that I want to help, or is this just something I want to see my name on?
Yeah.
So I think about the Lex. I think about my kids' soccer team. I think about that, what was it, the Bob Cajun tree lighting thing, or Settlers Village?
The Festival of Trees.
Yeah, I went there for the first time, unfortunately, this past winter. I loved it. It was awesome. And I was like, I don't care what this is. I'm sometimes annoyed that people don't ask me more for sponsorship because I'm pretty open with it, especially with Thrive now. But I just was like, I love this event. I want this event to continue to happen. I said, unfortunately, it was my first time going because I wish I had gone for years, and I will continue to go for years now. But as someone that wants to sponsor, I think this is something that will help keep this event going for years and years. So yes, absolutely, I would like to do that. With the Lex, I think about my ego and how I would like to see my name in the big sparkly lights up there, right? And is that the right audience for me in both of these cases? Probably not. But it's with the Lex, it's an ego. Like, yeah, that'd be pretty cool to see my name there, and all those people would see my name.
So if you have a big ego and you want your name on the
Yes.
Kawarthas Small Business Podcast, you need to send us an email to set it up at kawarthasmallbusinesspodcast.ca.
Yeah, and tell us how big your ego is.
Yeah.
And then I think about my kids' soccer team, where I kind of overheard the cost of what it was to sponsor a team. And again, I was a bit annoyed. I'm like, I wish someone should have asked me. I would have done that. And I think it's kind of a neat, kind of cute, fun thing to do. It'd be nice to see my kid wearing a business name that I run. So again, it falls into that category of, is it helping, or is it going to keep this event around longer, or is it going to drive my ego? I think with the podcast, I don't think it's any of those, other than it's a true marketing exercise, though. I guess if you are someone that's obsessed with the core of the small business podcast, like Luke Schaff at Morning Cup Productions, like his ego is probably bursting out of his head and he wants his name on our podcast. But I don't think too many people are like that. I don't think it's people are like, well, I heard they're really struggling with the podcast and we need to financially support it so it continues around. Like, I don't want to go into too many specifics, but like we've made some money off this recently.
Yeah,
but
we had some sponsors. So.
Yeah, we've bankrolled this for years just for fun.
Yeah,
right?
this is frankly, this is our own marketing thing. We are inherently the sponsors. We put in the time and the money to the podcast. So this isn't I think there's certain types of podcasts where it's like, give us money so we can keep doing what we do. They have heavy production costs for some of those. That's not what we're doing. It's not pure entertainment. I think it is creating the marketing value for being the sponsor. I think we would like to make some money and have some true sponsorship so we can make it better. We would like to do some better equipment.
Yeah.
I think as a marketing play, a lot of that would be put more into marketing. So if someone sponsors it, you're going to get some pretty good marketing from it. So I think in terms of marketing dollars, you're going to get to, if your audience is small business owners, it's going to be an efficient way to get to small business owners compared to other options that you would have.
Yeah, and we've talked offline about hundreds of ideas. I don't even know if I said to you, like, I would love to be running ads for this on social media.
Oh, yeah.
We need to be doing remarketing ads. So people that have interacted with the brand online or whatever, we need to be following them around, get them to listen, come to our Monday morning coffees. That's what I would like to take the money for almost right away, is like to start promoting it more, frankly. And that will only help the sponsors that are on top of that too. So it's never going to be a bad thing. And again, that targeting and the awareness for those ads is mostly going to be going to other small business owners. So I think there's a ton of value there.
Oh, I think so. And I got some external validation for this as well. I had a podcast strategy call with a podcast sort of industry expert in California who...
Joe Rogan?
No, not Joe Rogan. But the guy did work for Tesla. He was like the international marketing manager for Tesla. And he's like left to get into podcasting very seriously. And he let us know that we are in the top 1% of podcasts.
Oh, wow.
Which sounds like the real numbers don't sound that great in terms of like how many podcasts there are. But when you dig down into how many active podcasts are producing weekly episodes and how consistent we are definitely in the top 1% of podcasts in the world. This person thought, branding as the region, the Kawarthas and around that was a great way for sponsors. So that is what put it into my head to put this on our schedule of like, we should be actively looking for, those sponsors that can help us grow and, grow themselves as well, purely through marketing.
That's awesome. I was on a podcast years ago. What did we even call it? I don't remember now, but it made no sense. It was so broad, and his type of clients that he liked to work with were very different than mine. It just never made any sense. This made sense. Like, this is Kawarthas. This is small business owners. This is not how-tos. this for me is no prep, and I just roll in and ramble and talk about myself, which I love doing more than anything. So
Yeah, we have conversations. I think we've seen the value in terms of listeners and people reaching out, people sharing it with their friends, strangers who listen to it, who have reached out and they've, come along and learned some things from us. I think that proves to me that people are listening, they're engaged in the podcast. We're only just getting started. This will be episode number 159, which I think is most podcasts stop after 7 episodes.
That's the average, right?
Yeah, the average is 7.
Yeah, we're 159. Why not 1,590?
Yeah, that's
why not 15,000?
A lot of years. That's a different type. This is like Donald Miller and Business Made Simple podcast talks about how popular theirs is in podcasting. And he said the only way to really grow theirs is with daily podcasts. And he's like, we're not doing that. That's a different type of thing where people have more and more listens. They're sometimes shorter or daily. We're not.
That's a content factory.
Doing that. That's Content Factory.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff. We're not Content Factory. I'm open to being a bit more content forward with specific businesses. I would love to do sponsored episodes that we could, put into the feed maybe as a bonus. I think podcasting is a way, and I heard someone say this, where you could talk to all of your customers at once for half an hour. What would you want them to know? So as a business, you might not want to create your own podcast, but wouldn't it be great to have a podcast that exists that tells all of your customers those things you want them to know and understand? Like, I would love to help businesses create that as a sponsored episode that can air once through our feed, but also they can refer people to it as, hey, welcome, here's about us, or here's the detailed things you need to know about how we work, what we do, as part of their marketing.
Yeah, that'd be cool if we did what we've talked about. Stop me if we should talk about it, but the business in a day that we've talked about, and record a podcast as part of it. That would be fascinating.
I think that would be fascinating. I don't know that I would want to air it necessarily.
No.
Just because everyone would have to be willing to, and depending on their willingness to do it, I think might be interesting. You never know what's going to happen, but it would be neat to, or at least snippets from it, I think would be possible.
Yeah, I've heard these stories about podcasts. They'll have guests over, they'll record a podcast. If it sucks, they don't air it.
I guess
something like that if necessary.
Yeah, I think that might be really neat. I am also contractually some of the material I'm licensed to use, specifically StoryBrand. I cannot record elements of that I would want to use. So that's just, this sounds really fancy, but like a legal reason why I couldn't be recorded. Other stuff is completely fine. So maybe we just keep that part of the day a secret. You have to come for the day if you want to hear what that stuff is.
You can't do can you record the StoryBrand, like brand message framework exercise that we do?
No. Well, I can't do the keynote. And then part of recording it's really about protecting the brand. StoryBrand, it's a good side conversation, is one of those frameworks where it will work. And the reason why you can read the book, take some of it and it will work a little bit. The best is to really go through it all yourself and implement it with a guide who's been through it, because what you don't want is everyone sort of out promoting it and it's not quite the whole thing.
Sure.
Or you listen to me and it's like, oh, Brian said this, I should do this. But really that's maybe in context to that specific business, and you're not getting the context around it. So then when people try to hack it, they're like, well, this doesn't work. This is stupid. So it's about really protecting the brand and not having too many people out recording too many sort of hacked pieces of it outside of content.
For sure. It's like us. We don't want people ripping off our podcast. Like, we don't want people doing the big city, big business podcast.
Yeah. Even though, shout out to Big Rudy and the Big Burlington Big Business podcast that was launched as a response to this back when we first launched it. So I think, from a marketing standpoint, there's reasons to sponsor it. We would love to have just a episode sponsor, monthly sponsors. I would do a title sponsor for a larger chunk of time. Those funds will be used to promote and make the podcast better, which just gives you more and more just as a pure marketing play. I would love to do some specifically sponsored content, sponsored episodes. We have conversations here. We don't typically do pure promotion. I would like to do that as long as it's in a conversational way where it's the business owner talking to their clients, their prospective clients. And I think there's definitely value for businesses to have that as part of their marketing assets. There's a cost to that because we have to do some prep and design it right so that it doesn't annoy our listeners. But I think everyone listening to this probably would love to hear what another business does and kind of the details.
I've got a good idea on this. I don't know if we should talk about it now, but this is a great idea.
Let's do it, because this is one of those podcasts where it's like some people might not listen. I want to be able to send this directly to people when we ask them for sponsorship.
Right.
So it could be engaging. So let's talk.
So if we're looking, and we've talked about shorter episodes in certain cases. We haven't talked about that in a long time, but because I said I could hop on and record myself going on about something really quick and you could do the same or whatever. Yeah. Why couldn't we do a 10 to 15 minute sponsored discovery type of call where I ask businesses 4 questions every time I get on a discovery call with them, marketing wise? Why couldn't we do that? And that's the pitch, is hey, here's what my business is about. We can go through those questions. And it's a bit more of an interview, and it's not a whole lot different than the regular conversations that we have, except those are completely unscripted with no agenda.
Yeah.
This one would be kind of a play on that, where it's we ask those questions in and out and kind of go from there. I like that idea a lot. You kind of slide it in as any other episode, but you could call it a sponsored one. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good one.
That's a content factory, and we could generate, we could do that, but it would be effective. Yeah. It would still work for the people that are listening, and it would work for the business.
Yeah, our goal is to, we don't want to be, it has to be content that makes sense for the listeners.
Yeah.
And factory it up a bit just takes some resources. So my only barrier to that has been I'm doing all of the editing and posting, and our equipment's not necessarily set up to make it real. So, if we put in the time to do all of that or have the money to do it, then we can do those things. And I think in general, business owners, our core listeners want to learn about other businesses. And then general people in the public would love, people like to know what's going on in the business community. They like to know,
that's a cool idea.
What's that business about, and where else, you can get a short audio of here's the behind the scenes of what this business is like in a way that's different. I heard another great podcast stat, which is in the age group of, I think, 18 to 34. Podcasting as a medium has tied radio now. And there was a time where podcasting was 10% of radio, and everyone was like, man, that's awesome. Look how far we've gone. But that group is listening to podcasts as much as radio. So people, it's not a weird thing. And if you can easily find it and click on it, like a lot of people would like to hear 15 minutes about a business that they've maybe just heard about.
I almost exclusively listen to podcasts or Spotify. I rarely listen to the radio. My kids hate listening to the radio and they hate watching TV because they're so used to these streaming services. Like TV, you got commercials, and like they can't understand why they have to watch commercials on TV. And the radio
It
too,
used to
like,
be the best part when I was a kid, the toy commercials, but now you watch kids open up toys on YouTube.
or do you think, like, when's the last time someone was like, "Oh, did you see that great commercial?" You used to talk about commercials all the time with people.
Yeah.
Never, ever, ever do anymore. I can't think of a single commercial out there.
I see the odd one that comes up. I haven't had one in a while where I was like, oh, that's awesome. I think some of them now are moving to, things like YouTube,
Yeah.
right? You're getting like good short ones, but I think that's a great thing to think about.
Yeah. So that's why you should sponsor the podcast, because no one's looking at you or seeing you anywhere else.
Yeah, I think so. I think we're getting you out there. We're putting resources into promoting that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're coming up with some great ideas here why people should be a sponsor. It's pure marketing. You should be investing in your marketing.
It's another channel.
If you want businesses to know you exist, and even the community, if you want, that next layer of, there's awareness. You could splash out your logo. You could do the 30-second clip, but there's nothing replaces a conversation. And if we're about conversations, like, you're, as a business owner, you're in them all the time. New clients come in. People want to talk to you. They want to connect. They want to do business with their neighbors. They want to know what cool things happening, or they want to know what you're thinking about next, right? So to be able to do that in a way where we can broadcast it out without other sponsors, if you go on to the radio, there used to be, back in the days of AM radio, you could have conversations, but often they weren't sponsored, or you could talk about something, but not necessarily your business. You were creating their content, right? Like, we want to help you create, content that's fit for you that you can use to talk about.
Content that you can access and utilize. Like, doing a podcast is accessible now, but it's not easy.
Yeah.
People don't know how to do it. People don't know how to get it started. You don't have to. Come to us. We'll get this sorted. We'll do an episode with you.
We can do it. And if you love it, and if it makes sense for your business, we can help. We'd love to help you launch your own podcast if it makes sense. But with the average being 7, when people give up, like, you might not even, people jump in thinking they need a whole podcast, but really, if the average is 7, you might need 3 episodes.
Yeah.
Everything you want people to understand out. And then you can just recirculate those until people know what it is. We can do a 3-part series that's clearly sponsored and, co-branded, and people know what it is, and it fits our theme of conversations that are helpful. And, we're not too scripted or too salesy. Like, it's going to be, something that people will want to listen to. And it's going to be a helpful marketing tool.
Yeah, you've convinced me.
Let's do it. Awesome. Any final thoughts?
No, I would love people to sponsor this podcast, frankly, so we can do more with it, because I do think there's good reach and there's great things that we can do with it. And I do, not to plead or beg, but like, it's kind of the point of this podcast, but I would love to be able to do more with it, to get more out there to people that are listening to it, that are enjoying it, that do think it's a good platform, that it is a good way to come and network and meet with people. So I would love to see this grow from a sponsorship perspective.
Awesome. All right. Tell the people who you are, what you want them to know, where to find you.
I'm going to try something different. I've said the same thing, I think, the last how many times we've done this. I want people to know that marketing is solving 2 problems, one of which is not enough people know that you exist. And the second one is not enough people remember you exist. NattyG Digital can help you solve both of those problems with a SEO, getting found on Google strategy so more people will actively find you and know that you exist, and then also solve the problem of not enough people remembering that you exist with a effective strategic email marketing plan. Just go to manageedigital.com and book a call.
Awesome. And I am the business coach that frankly helps your business get money by using frameworks and playbooks that are designed to professionalize your business, streamline you for profit. You can find me at profitcoach.ca. And Matt and I would love to collaborate with you to help you start, grow, or recharge your business. We want to work with you. If you wanted to discuss working with us or be a guest on the podcast, send us an email to setitup@kawarthassmallbusinesspodcast.ca. And remember, we believe the Kawarthas can be the most thriving region in Canada for small businesses.